Today, we are going to be talking about how to safely integrate new chickens into your current existing flock.
Hi, friends. I'm Chris.
I'm Angela.
And we're the Dinosaur Omelet. Welcome back. So, today we're going to be talking about what? How to integrate chickens?
Yeah, people like to get new chickens, new colors, different ages, and it's always the question is, how do I integrate those new members to my current flock? So, yeah, that's what we're going to cover today.
If you guys are new here, do us a huge and hit the sub button or the likey button because we are trying to bring quality, useful information, at least once a week. And we do our live videos, usually on Thursdays. So, stop on in Thursday night lives. We usually have an educational subject each week. All right, so with chickens, like most any other creature, when they are grouped, there's a structure of hierarchy. There's usually a dominant, you've heard of the pecking order or the alpha male wolf in the wolf pack. So that's what they're establishing. And many of these animal groups, of course, are social. Chickens are little social animals.
Yeah.
And so they do have a hierarchy. A couple things about chicken hierarchy. Number one, it's going to produce, of course, a cohesive unit, and there's harmony. But the position of the leader chicken, that usually changes over time. It's not the same dominant male, is it?
No, or female. Birds that are at the top will spend more time and energy maintaining their position because it's going to constantly be challenged. Birds that are at the bottom of the hierarchy, they will be experiencing correction from birds above them. This is all the process of maintaining the hierarchy. Occasional pecking or squabbles may be observed, but that's perfectly normal. That's how they communicate with each other.
So, right, chickens already have an established hierarchy when you bring in a new bird, and the new birds will disrupt the already existing established chicken hierarchy. And the aggressive dudes or the more dominant ones are going to start working their way back up to be leader chicken. And the chickens, if you're introducing a younger chicken or a few chickens, the younger birds, they're not going to be dominant and they're going to be on the lower end of the totem pole until I guess they grow up and can start battling their way in to be tough guy.
Yeah, and they figure out where they're going to sit in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Now, animals typically have a territory that they maintain, including chicken. So the area they live in or dwell in, that will be their territory that they're maintaining. If there are intruders or even new additions that are other chickens that are added to the area, these new additions, they may be considered as competitors of the resources, the food, water available to the original existing flock. So your current chickens, your older chickens, they may instinctively feel the need to challenge or even fight with any new additions that are just plopped into the space.
All right, guys, so that information is to introduce to the hierarchy of chickens, which I'm sure most of you guys are aware. If not, it exists. There is a hierarchy. Introducing new birds can create stressors for the animals already there, and this is a new environment for new critters. So we don't want to have this happening, too much aggression between them. So there is a proper way to introduce the birds. So we don't have that. We don't have our nice new chicken that we like a lot and spent money on and traveled for to get injured.
Okay, so what are some of the concerns that we're trying to mitigate here? One thing is excessive bullying of new members being added. You want to prevent excessive bullying. It's natural for them to be picked on a little bit, but you don't want excessively. If there's prolonged confrontation or bullying going on with the new added chickens, this could cause stress. The chickens are already going to be stressed because any kind of transition or change will be difficult in a transition for the immune system, the health. Prolonged stress from being bullied or adapting to a new area can compromise the immune system and health of the birds.
Just like people.
Exactly.
So,
and you want to prevent any kind of physical deterioration or compromised immune systems. You want your birds to stay nice and healthy. Sometimes there are personalities within the flock that might be more dominant than others, and they may excessively bully or make a point of asserting their dominance. So it's important to pay attention to the personalities and individuals within your flock, especially when adding new members, that they're mingling and living together with harmony. If you notice any kind of extra dominance that's not subsiding, it may be necessary to remove that individual from the flock.
We have nice chickens. Those guys are happy. They're all docile, right? And
Yeah.
if they're not docile, they become sandwiches. That's how it is, I guess. So we have these are dual purpose birds. These are black Australorps, right? Meat and eggs. So like when introducing your new birds, they should have similar personalities or at least behavioral traits.
Yes, among the different, if you have a mixed flock of different breeds, especially, like Christopher mentioned, that's very important to take note of and pre-plan. Think of it like different dog breeds. For example, there are some breeds that are just naturally more dominant, like maybe bulldogs or just bigger dogs.
I like the Basset Hound.
There are some dogs that are just naturally happy. They get along with everybody, like, you know, Labradors, retrievers, maybe poodles. And then there's some dogs that are very isolated. They like to be by themselves. If you're having mixed breeds, different size breeds, different temperaments, different energy levels, then you want to make sure the breeds you select do mingle well together. If there are any personalities standing out that are just too overbearing for more docile, low energy individuals in your flock, then consider removing them.
When you're bringing them in, it's important to monitor their health. Like when we are distributing one of our nice little silkies, we always recommend an isolation period to ensure the health of both creatures, the existing chickens and the new chicken. So these two environments, they carry different pathogens, correct? And each chicken is adapted to their local environment. So these chickens are used to whatever's living in the ground here. They would probably be fine shipping them down the road, but you don't want to take the chance because there could be a dominant species of organism in the dirt, soil, or water that they have that they're hardy to, okay, that the new flock is not. And then they could introduce this new organism to the new flock.
Yeah, and that the stress of the transition may compromise temporarily their immune system.
Temporarily, just like, you know, stress for a human being, like we talked about earlier.
So for best practices in a successful transition, you definitely want to have a quarantine or holding period before you're adding your new birds together.
How long? How long?
Minimum 2 weeks. They do say maximum like about 40 days. We leave that up to you to determine. But the point is to observe them, allow them to calm down, allow them to de-stress, and also see if there's any kind of illness present or maybe that they picked up just from being stressed. So you want them to be calm already and adjusted before now a new stress of integration. So the first stress is being moved to a new location. The next stress is being integrated. So you want them to be prepared for that. So a few tips to help with the process of transitioning your new birds into your existing flock. Make sure the run or the common area, the space that your birds dwell in, there's enough space for them to separate from each other and just not be stuffed together. You want them to be able to mill about and space themselves out. So make sure that's a roomy space. Add more than one feed and watering stations. So at least 2, depending on the space you have and the number of birds you're working with, have several feeding stations of water and food so that they can find their food without having to bump into each other.
So our chickens are used to the environment they've been living in, the ones we already have, the existing flock, and we're going to be introducing a new stimulus, the new chickens. So what we like to do, and a good strategy to diminish this aggression and stressors between all the birds, is to dilute their current environment with new diversions, things they're not used to. It dilutes the new variable coming in, which are the new chickens. So placing new objects into their environment is going to divert their attention a little bit from the other objects coming in, which are your new birds. So now the old flock has this new stimulus they're adjusting to and investigating, which is going to divert their attention from the newly introduced birds. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
So what kind of things do you mean by new objects?
So what do I mean by new objects? Chicken toys, planted boards, buckets, those pegboards with the colors that they peck. I think people are familiar with those. You ever see these? They're stimulus boards for chickens, something that's going to be safe for them, obviously, but for them to interact with. A log or a structure in the yard they're not used to as well, a new obstacle for them to walk around.
Yeah, something that's visually different and completely new to your current flock. So if it's a bucket, put it upside down, weight it down so it's not going to tip over. But you could put a chair in there. Things that are going to look very different and out of place for your chickens, and they're going to be like, what is that? That sort of thing. So what's going to happen is these new items these foreign objects that you add to your run, it's going to confuse your older birds, your mature birds, or your current birds. It's gonna confuse them. They're gonna fixate and focus on those things in their area. They're gonna be like, oh my gosh, something's in our territory. I don't know what's going on. They're not gonna be harmed or anything like that. It's just going to confuse them. So while they're fixating on these new things in the run, you can slip the new birds in, the new members that you're adding. The new birds won't know there's anything amiss because they don't know what the territory looked like before. So now the new birds can mill about, look around, explore the area, the run, and be in peace, because the original birds will be still kind of flustered and confused about these objects you added to your run. The new birds will be able to adjust. Yeah, all of this can be done during the day. You can observe them, make sure everybody's safe, and...
Okay, well, let me ask a question. All right, I'm going to ask a question. What if I introduced my new chicken and we had our environmental change, but I noticed the existing birds immediately start bullying my new guy?
I would add a few more objects to the area that is just more foreign to them, maybe even color. If that still isn't helping, I do recommend then that you take out any flock members that are just not adjusting the original birds, remove them and put them temporarily in another area and keep them in this other area completely separate. Hi, Black. Nice to be here. Stop it. Keep them in this other area while your new birds are adjusting with the other members of your flock that are adjusting with them, more smoothly. So then after maybe like a couple days, then bring those original birds that you separated and put them into the flock.
Wait a minute. So like the whole environment change, that does most of the work?
It does.
You see? Something that we recommend against, which is commonly done, is integrating new chickens at night. Now, it's going to be dark. Nobody's going to be seeing each other. But it's possible you're putting these birds in at night, and the old birds, they get aggressive. You're in your house sleeping, and there's a peck fight, and you wake up with a horribly mangled chicken. That's possible, but why risk it?
Now, let's talk briefly about ages and the mixing of different age groups. When you have chickens that are all mature, they're all the same age, they're going to already immediately be thinking about hierarchy because they're mature. So if you're adding mature birds to a mature flock, new existing flock, then those new birds are going to be integrated and pretty rapidly be thinking about, well, where do I fit in the flock? So there may be a little more squabbling to figure that out. Juveniles, however, that are not mature yet, let's say they're 4 months old, they're not thinking yet as a mature bird. So they're not going to be thinking so much in hierarchy. So if you're adding juveniles to a mature flock, then they'll be integrated in, but not be competing immediately to figure out where they fit in. They'll just naturally go to the bottom of the hierarchy and they'll stay there until they mature and age up. And then they'll gradually figure out where they fit. So when you're thinking about adding new birds, if they're juveniles, it is important, though, to think, well, what's too young? You want them to visually look pretty similar or close, to the size of your mature bird. So they don't stick out so much. And the younger the chickens are, then the more juvenile and chick-like they will act. Which means if they're picked on, then they're just going to run in terror. They're not going to defend themselves or stand up for themselves. They're just going to be really scared. So it's important to wait until your chicks or young juveniles grow a little bit so that they're several months old. where they'll be close to maturing and not so fearful when being integrated with older birds. I recommend, if you have like layer breeds or standard size breeds, to wait at least 4 months or older to add them to a mature flock, because their body size will be larger and more similar to mature sized chickens, which means they won't stand out so much and be a target for potential bullying. When you're looking at bantam or mini breeds, you're going to want them to be a little older, like at least 5 months old. So the point is, you want them to be like in that 4, 5, or 6 month age range to add to mature flock, so that they're going to be similar in size to the older birds, but they won't be so fearful. They'll be close to maturity, but not at maturity, which means they'll naturally go to the bottom of the hierarchy, and it won't upset the rest of the birds that are older so much. They'll know they're at the bottom, and that's where they'll prefer to be. Once they mature in a couple months, then they'll slowly work themselves up.
All right, friends, I guess we hope that was helpful about chicken integration. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So, again, like usual, if this was use, hit the like button, give us a sub, and share out if you think somebody could use this info.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. We really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.